Good morning. We are at the site of Dundurn Hillfort, which is right behind me in the background, and in front of it is St. Fillan's graveyard. So we're going to have a look at that first, and then we're going to go up to Hillfort and we will do another Hillfort tour. So if you're interested, I hope you stay tuned. It's also snowing ever so lightly. Look at all that snow coming our way. But here's the graveyard, and you can go in as well. And here's a dedication to St. Fillan, the leper. Do you know anything about this graveyard or St. Fillan?
Nope.
Huh.
All I know about St. Fillan is that he was supposed to have brought Christianity to this area a long time ago.
And now let's go to the Hillfort. So why would you recognise that as a Hillfort?
Probably because a lot of those little piles of stones look like a collapsed wall. I think it's called scree. You do get it on natural formations, but a lot of the time it's typically an example of a collapsed stone wall from a hill fort. It's usually dry stone.
Is there not a particular height of hill that is a preferred spot for hill forts? They don't put them in onto high mountains, do they?
It depends. I mean, sometimes you have hill forts which are very accessible but still high up, so like this one. But there are a couple of hill forts that are really up high in mountains and wouldn't have been permanently occupied. That's the thing with hill forts, is that they're very varied. That's what makes it so difficult for archaeologists to figure out what they were used for, because there's so many exceptions to the rules. So, whether they were used for defense or not. Some hill forts clearly had defenses, other hill forts clearly didn't. And it's the same with accessibility. Some hill forts are very clearly accessible, while others are much more inaccessible. And a lot of it does depend on, I guess, the suitability of a site, for putting a hill fort on top of it anyway. But this place around here is perfect, as we'll see when we get to the top.
Do you think this was the original way up?
It might have been. It does look like a trackway. It could be hard to tell though.
So do you think this was a defensive hill fort?
Most likely, because it was built up on top of a high rock face.
So these are goats, which may be wild potentially. They do exist.
Well, feral.
Feral goats, yeah. But they're gonna run away pretty soon.
The proper name is British primitive goat, and they're descended from goats that were brought over by the Neolithic farmers. And they had been kept by the Highlanders for millennia, and because of the clearances, many people had to move away from their ancestral homelands. And when they went away, they couldn't take their livestock with them, so they just let them go. And even still today, they just roam about the Highlands. So I think we've come across some, because they're very shaggy. Like, they don't look like they've been kept by anybody.
Yeah.
And they're not uncommon, so it's cool to see them. Like, you don't see them every day.
So do you think those stones are part of a wall?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, they would have been part of a dry stone wall. And they've tumbled down centuries ago. So yeah, you can see the whole hill face is covered in all of these stones, and they're definitely, you can tell that they're not natural because they're clustered around those sorts of areas. And we do know that this was a hill fort. So
How do we know?
because it's called Dundurn in
Right.
Gaelic, and Dun signifies a hill fort. It never means just hill; it means like hill fort, right? So you can tell any name that has a prefix of Dun or Dun is named after a hill fort.
So here's the edge of a wall, apparently. What would this wall have been for? Just the defense?
Yeah, presumably. Yeah. Archaeologists also talk about status. So, like, I think it would have been defensive, but it also would have had a psychological effect as well. So, just like witnessing or beholding the impressive large stone walls, would have just given it a certain effect. This is the same as castles. It's the same principle.
So here's the other wall. And apparently these goats are a rare sight because they tend to just roam all over the Highlands. And Ireland as well.
Yeah, you get them in Ireland because it's the same as happened with the clearances here. The same thing happened with the famine. People left and they just left their animals behind and let them free to fend them for themselves.
What do you think about this dip?
I'm not sure what to make of this. I mean, there does seem to have been a wall here, and it's all tumbled down to the side over there and right behind us. So, where we're standing is where a wall would have been.
Could this have been a little area for houses?
Possibly.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Nice view anyway. And that's the sun coming back out. It always looks so nice when the sun is out. And there seems to be a track leading up to the top there. Pretty steep on this edge here.
Yeah, this hill fort was definitely defensive. It's too sort of steep on all sides.
You get a really good view of the plain as well, so if you see an army marching on you, then you're going to know.
Yeah, this particular spot here, I mean, it's got a view, we'll see when we get to the top, but it has a view of this sort of pass coming into this glen here. Over to the west, off in that direction, is Loch Earn. It would have basically covered the area coming from Comrie and Crieff, out in Strathearn, So this is the River Erne here, you know, flowing along.
And there's a goat over there.
Wow, it's big.
Oh no. There he runs. Still staring at us, waiting for us to leave. What we had to do was to follow the goats, and they led us to the top. It's the way up to the peak. So that's a nice and flat top. So would there have been a settlement on this whole parameter?
Yeah, I think this whole top of the Hillfort here would have been one building. I suppose we're not completely sure what it would have been, whether it would have been the residence of some sort of chieftain, whether it would have been some sort of temple. Yeah, it's really not clear.
What about this stone over there?
Well, I mean, the stone's part of the bedrock. It is interesting how it has this curve at the end, so it might have actually been carved to look like that for some purpose. I have no idea.
For the king to sit on? King seat? You can also see the graveyard down there in the distance. Beautiful light in the winter, and this is February, just for the record, end of February. There's another leftover wall right at the foot of the top, and there's another dip which may have had some additional houses, and here's that wall again. It's 1 p.m. now, which means lunchtime. The best part of every walk, isn't it? I guess here's a little addition to my Edinburgh video. So the Gaelic name for Edinburgh is Dunedin, which is also a town in New Zealand, which was named after Edinburgh, or Dunedin is Gaelic name, and obviously Dunedin refers to the fact that there's a Hillfort in Edinburgh. Do you think that is the one on top of Arthur's Seat that it refers to?
No, it refers to where Edinburgh Castle is now.
Oh, right,
There
okay.
used to be a Hillfort there, but the castle replaced it in the Middle Ages.
So there's really tons of Hillforts around the area. Why do you think there's so many?
I don't think it's just Edinburgh that has so many Hillforts around it. I mean, Hillforts are everywhere in Scotland. They do seem to cluster around certain areas. I suspect that there's so many clustered around Holyrood Park, possibly just to get, for the tribe that lived there, the Wotodini, they were called. It might have been for them to get a complete view from all of the hills over the quite low-lying areas to the east and the west. That would have been where they would have most likely faced attacks from. So, I mean, as far as I know, this is the only Hillfort in this area. But There's likely to be more.
I love this tree, by the way. It seems to be the only big tree. It looks like an oak. And it's just growing on this rock. Imagine living in a place like this. And then there's one more tree further down. Found the goats again. Goats galore. Best guess is that the path led up right there along the wall and then back around and up.
Yeah, it's quite
And
difficult to see.
that's the way down. Now we have to cross over the stream. This is going to be interesting. Just trying to get over that way. Goodbye, Dundurn.